Hi, I am a case manager at DBSA St. Louis Empowerment Center. I work with individuals with substance use disorder and mental health. So, my mom was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and it was extremely hard growing up with that diagnosis or having a family member with that diagnosis because a lot of resources that are available today were not available then. And I just remember them calling my other family, so my grandmother, which would be her mother, calling the police on my mom a lot to get help. There was no therapist, there was no psychiatrist, there was no resources we could go to as a family. It was always call the police, and the police would come in and arrest my mom and take her to the state hospital. At that time was Malcolm Bliss. And that happened over and over and over. There were times that, I would watch my mom set her own head on fire. I would watch other family members treat her less than human, like a dog. She would live outside our house for about 2 years. She lived in the backyard like a dog. She was not allowed in the house. That was kind of the way they dealt with it, was call the police and get her to the psych hospital, which always ended up happening was my mom would escape and she would end up back at my grandmother's house. But we were told not to let her in. We were told that she is crazy and she could hurt one of us, and she stunk, and she just didn't deserve to be let into our house. So there were times that me and my sister would sneak my mom in the house when my grandmother would leave to take a shower, to feed her. That was me taking care of her. And one thing I did come to realize when I was growing up is that's my mom's reality, right? I remember a lot of other family members kind of telling, oh, that doesn't exist, or you're talking to someone that isn't there, but that was her reality. So I will never tell someone, that sees something I don't see, that it's not there. That's one of the biggest things to kind of take away with someone that has mental illness, even depression. That's their reality. It's the worst thing in the world to tell someone, just get out of bed, just move forward. There's nothing wrong with you. That is very much their reality of, I'm stuck in this rut and I don't know how to get out. So, comfort knowing that there's resources out there and that's their reality, and not try to change that to what it looks like for you. So like if, you're dealing with someone that is newly experiencing psychosis or mental illness of some form, I think just being open and honest, starting that conversation like, hey, I've noticed something is off with you. Here are some things we could do. Maybe we could check into this place or talk to this person. I think being open and honest is the best way. I always tell my son, he has dealt with depression in the past, and I think one of the biggest things with him is that I'm open and honest with him. I always make sure he's safe to come to me. I know that stigma is it's there. It's very strong still and prevalent in a lot of communities. I work in an urban area in North St. Louis, and it's just not talked about. It's just ignored, or, because of history, they're afraid to go to doctors. And I have tons of friends that have had parents say to them, there's nothing wrong with you, or pull yourself up, get over it. And those are the kind of things you don't want to say to someone that is dealing with psychosis or mental illness. I think being open and honest, the best way in dealing with it, and talking with that person, giving them the dignity, right? Like, what does my recovery look like? And letting them be in the planning process. The worst thing you could do is like go behind their back and start, hey, I'm going to call this hospital and this hospital, and send them to a state hospital or something of that nature, or into the psych ward. A lot of people have been there already, right? And they're afraid of that kind of environment. So I think just being open and honest with them and allowing them to be in on the plan of what their recovery looks like. I work with people that have severe mental illness now, and the resources have changed. They have gotten better. I think there's still a long way to go. There's still that stigma that people walk with when dealing with psychosis. But I do believe that there are a lot more resources that I refer people to every day, opposed to what my mom had then, because really the only resource I ever remember had was the police and calling them to take her to the state hospital. I'm an advocate for mental health and psychosis. I would like to add, words like "you're crazy," and there's nothing wrong with you, or those kinds of things make it worse. I think the word crazy is one of those words that make my skin crawl, because it's an ugly word. And so many times people that deal with mental illness wear that word. I am crazy. What's wrong with me now? And it's not that. You don't have to suffer. There is recovery. I've dealt with mental illness as well, and I've recovered. I'm in recovery now, and I've, lived a long sobriety life of 6 years now, and I love it. And that goes with my mental health too. When I got sober, I got my mental health together, and I believe that if I didn't, I would have more than likely used again. So yeah, I think it's super important to talk about and get stuff like this out. And I'm always advocating for mental illness and getting better and what that looks like for the individual. Recovery is so important. It is possible.